Hey, greetings, everybody. Another episode of Lore of Warcraft here. Stay a while and listen to our next jump forward in time. I believe we've jumped forward a good, 2,000-ish years. 1,500 years. So we've done a big jump. The last thing that we left off was not this picture. Actually, in the book, this picture is abutted with the last the 2 episodes ago, when what it says, the blue dragons descend on the highborn in the forest of Moonsong. So the eradication of the Northrend highborn, and them, I guess, channeling all their magic, trying to fight off the blue dragons. As you can see, they look kind of crazed. I like how they have lightning breath. Anyhow, that shattered everything and became Crystal Song. It's just a neat picture of the blue dragons. But it was placed in the book in the next section, and then I forgot. I had it in the last video. I just had it at the end, and I forgot to show it. So I just figured you could see it. There's a lot of really good art in this Chronicles book. Okay, so this is a little shorty. This is called Exodus of the Gnomes, and we're now 3,000 years before the Dark Portal. For those of you keeping track, this is also when the recorded history of Draenor, so the orc side of things, that world, begins now. That's what Chronicles 2 covers. There's some primordial stuff that happens before this, but this is where the Sethek, or the Arakoa, whatever they're called, this is where they start their recorded history at this 3,000 years before the Dark Portal. So when we really get into Chronicles 2, we'll have a little bit of primordial stuff, and then it will begin about this time period. So just as an earmark, as we are moving forward with recorded history, this is when, about the same time that the Gnomes are having their exodus. Okay, here we go. Exodus of the Gnomes. As wars raged and new civilizations arose across the surface of Azeroth, the Earthen largely kept to themselves. They were unconcerned with the activities of the world's other races, and except we did see them a little bit in the War of the Ancients trilogy. And I do believe they are what become the dwarves. Some Earthen remained isolated underneath the icy mountains of Northrend, and they still are. They're at the north of Northrend in Stormheim. Others who came south with Keeper Arcadis and the giantess Ironaya in an earlier age slumbered within the catacomb vaults of Uldaman. Okay, yeah, we've talked about those as well. Only a small number of these Earthen had chosen not to be placed in stasis, deciding that they would watch over and maintain the facility alongside their mechagnome companions. During this period, Arcadis and Ironaya grew distant from their servants. They became ever more obsessed with trying to cure the curse of flesh. Arcadis and Ironaya often retreated into the lowest chambers of Uldaman, spending years in quiet contemplation. Eventually, the two colossal Titanforged would disappear from sight and settle into a long period of hibernation. Centuries passed without word from either of them, and the Mechagnomes and Earthen were left to manage Uldaman on their own. When the Sundering tore through Azeroth, and if you think about where Uldaman is, I believe that's in the Badlands region, right around there. When the Sundering tore through Azeroth, many of the active Earthen reeled from the catastrophe. They felt the pain of the broken world as their own. They tunneled deep within Uldaman and locked themselves away within the hibernation chambers alongside their sleeping brethren. Only the Mechagnomes remained to watch over the facility, yet they too eventually succumbed to the curse of flesh. The affliction caused many of them to degenerate into fleshy beings later known simply as gnomes. Physically and mentally debilitated, these creatures lost all sense of purpose and abandoned the halls of Uldaman. They fled into the surrounding mountain peaks and caverns. Only a handful of mechagnomes stayed in the facility, still driven by their Titan-forged imperative, and which is why we still have a mechagnome race. The first generation of gnomes carved out an existence in the snowy mountains to the west of Uldaman. Lacking natural strength and defenses, the frail gnomes struggled to survive amid the harsh elements, barbaric ice trolls, and other threats that roamed the land. They did, however, retain their natural intellect and ingenuity. As generations passed, the gnomes dedicated themselves to technological advancement and discovery. These would be their only means of sustaining themselves in the savage new world. To this end, the gnomes eschewed record-keeping and oral storytelling, considering them immaterial to survival. so they don't have much of a recorded history. In only a few generations, the gnomes lost all knowledge of their Titan-forged heritage, which kind of makes sense also when they have no idea in the storylines, like especially in the Northrends one, when they encounter some other mechagnomes, they're like, what are these people? They are the ones that are cursed. What they gained, however, was a new society. Their ingenious engineering and sciences had helped them overcome hardship after hardship. The gnomes carved out a series of highly fortified dwellings deep within the cold mountains of what would become known as Dun Moragh. Okay, so, I mean, I feel like we're just dressing this up a little bit. Not that cool of a backstory. They basically said they kind of went crazy and fled, but despite their craziness, they also stayed engineering, very smart inventors. And all of this somehow let them survive where the blizzard originally placed them, plopped down in the middle of the snowy mountains. Anyway, they're a cool race. I like gnomes. And we knew that they basically, what we're just trying to get at here is, hey, eventually, hey, let's just say 3,000 years ago, the mechagnomes, because of the curse of flesh, devolved into the gnomes, and that's why we have them. And here's a little bit of hand-waving about why they are over in Dun Moragh. Okay. Thanks, guys, for listening. Another episode in Pipes 5x5. I will see everybody on the next one, next episode of Lore of Warcraft.